Mark, we're going to switch to English.
Yeah.
Unless you want to speak French.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm assuming you just said a lot about me that was very complimentary in French. That I couldn't
Yes,
understand.
exactly. I said that we met at the RedTech, webinar.
Yeah.
Not a long time ago. You had you had really a talk which struck me because, as I was just saying, we are covering the 5 continents, and we see that in France, radio stations have troubles taking risks.
Well, you're not alone in that. That's the whole
but it's
world.
not just France.
No.
And that was really interesting for me to hear from you. Is that it's global, and we unless some markets, maybe India is a bit different, but most of the markets that have audience monitoring are basically in the same position. What do you think about that? Are radio taking really risks today, or are they just talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, you can't, I can't start without saying globalization. Firstly, right? I mean, I come to Paris and there's I struggle to find shopping that's interesting because it's the same shopping I can have in London. In fact, and I work I work in South Africa a lot. I can go to South Africa now and it's the same shopping. And radio stations are exactly the same thing. I mean, we need the money, but the money then turns everything into the same thing. But the part that gets me going is that doesn't have to be that way, and I've never believed that. From the minute that I used to be a broadcaster, so I used to do morning shows. From the first time I went on the air, I didn't take no for an answer. I've never bought into this idea that there is one way to do art, and that's what we do. This is art. It's performance art. So how on earth can you possibly say to artists, if you're employing artists, that is, because a lot of them are not artists, right? We try and unemploy artists and put machines on the air, and I don't mean AI. No. AI, I think, is going to be quite creative, actually, by comparison with a lot of the humans we put on the air. But they will put humans on the air to remove any kind of creativity. And no one can tell me why. I can't imagine that makes more money than putting creativity on the air, which has got to make more money. And it's borne out by the fact that, I mean, I've been doing this for, 20-something years. And suddenly podcast is a big thing.
Because it's different?
Who knows? I haven't a clue. It's silent. This is a podcast. What you and I are doing now is a podcast.
Yes, and actually it's going to be a podcast.
With all due respect, this is nowhere near as good as my radio show.
Thanks.
I mean, there's no two ways about it, right? Now, I mean, a radio show's got music. A radio show is live, pretty much. A radio show is out of control. A radio show is not clipped and put into a certain amount of time necessarily. So much more can happen. They will put the money into podcast, but they won't put the money into live broadcast, which for me is just kind of crazy.
What is it, habits?
I don't know.
Money with the audience? Is it the audience monitoring that is really the key issue? Because systems are in place, and can we break it? Is it possible?
Yes, but if you go and look at what is happening with podcast, how many podcasts were there, and before you next look, they're all gone. I mean, people are not checking to see, yes, it's very successful if you're YouTube, if you're Spotify, if you're Joe Rogan, but for the rest of them, what is that and where is it? How do I find it? I mean, but from an audience measurement point of view, they like it because it's something you can write down. And it's all the things that you can put into a spreadsheet that you can't with art, that you can't with performance. And I guess that's why these things are driven by the mechanics of accounting, the mechanics of corporate diligence, if you will. But there's still no real reason to leave the big performance stars out. They need them for podcast. They'll put them on. Without them, there'd be no podcast. I mean, that's the important thing.
Which is kind of strange, because why? So what can they do to change that? Do you see stations that have really? We had an example in France once, and no one really took RMC
Philippe,
put
there's a station here in Paris that I read about, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
On one of these, maybe something that you produce on the weekend. I don't know what you do on the weekend,
Okay.
but Philippe has a hotline straight into my computer for some strange reason. A story of a radio station here, and it may be a community station or I don't know, everything's state-run here, isn't it? A state radio station where they reset their programming every day.
All right.
And so no 2 days are the same?
Oh, yeah.
I'm like...
Drop the mic.
What the hell was...
The sound engineer is very happy.
What is that? Like, imagine doing that. Imagine just saying tomorrow will not be like today. Now, that makes... I'm sure that makes most of these people think, oh, I'm not doing that. Because how are you going to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we're not a worrying business. We're not scientists. We're not saving lives. Leave that to doctors. Leave that to the fire brigade. We're just there to be idiots, have fun, and provide some sense of hope for audiences.
But that's maybe what the DJs and the presenter want. But
yeah,
the program directors are
their
blocked.
Fault. Yeah, this lot
are blocked because they're not allowed to do that. So what? I mean, how to break it? Just we need one station that just make the whole difference.
Do you know what this kind of thing? Putting on shows like this, I mean, this is interesting for me because I've never been to a Paris radio show.
Yeah, it was not like that
it's
before.
Normally Americans, right? And and whatever that is. This is like, oh, I can't wait to leave here so I can go tell people what this was like. Just standing here, just watching. I don't understand it, but I can sense what the feeling is in the room. So it's that, and I think it's very much. Now, I'm not giving up. And I don't see why I should give up. I'm not interested in saying, oh, you need to get over yourself, Mark, and podcast is it now, and your radio is old-fashioned. It ain't never going to be old-fashioned. You can't turn if you say no one turns a podcast up, you can't dance to a podcast. I mean, we've had all these things come along forever and ever and ever, and there'll be another 10 things that will come along. When something is live, when the football is live, right? The whole nation, when France plays. The whole nation waits all day long. What time is it? What time is the football? People saying, "What time are you? Where are you for the football tonight?" That's what live does. Why we would walk away from that, I don't know. Everything is there. We've got everything in place. We just need to take it back. We need to be prouder of what we do because we're damn good at what we do. Most radio people are very good because it's a very difficult medium to work in, right? I mean, we're literally like tap dancers. Like there's only a few of us that know how to do this kind of thing. But more than that, I think there's definitely an obligation in a kind of in a redemptive kind of way. And this is my perspective as someone I work with a lot of African radio stations. In Africa, it is very clear to me, much clearer than what it would be in developed societies like France and the UK and the States, that there is a serious human need, right? People are walking barefoot in parks and paying someone for the right to do that, right? We live in an age where people are wanting to fulfill their souls and get back to nature. And, we are one of those media. All Instagram does is annoy you because you can't be there for that sunset.
It's horrible.
Facebook, there's someone spying on you. TV is as boring as it comes, right? That's just the same old show over and over. Radio is still that place where there's a person there who's listening to you whilst you're listening to them.
Not always.
But when you're good at it, it's an opportunity to run back to. It's an opportunity to go back and say, we can do things for people where civic society doesn't do it for them. We can do it. There's no other medium in the world that I could go on the air now. If this was a radio station, we could go on the air now. We could tell Parisians to come down here, and that would be fun. They would get off. They would You'd suddenly see this throng of people would come for no apparent reason.
For us, it would be hell, but for it could be fun.
And that's a human thing. Other media can't do that.
What does it mean? You have to kill the clock?
Yeah, well, I mean, explain that one to me. I mean, why do
That's why I asked it.
Why do we have 4 breaks an hour? We know why songs are 3 minutes, so that the DJ has got time to go to the toilet and come back. So we know what that length. Why are spots 30 seconds? Why are I don't know.
Talking about advertising, how come that the advertising is the host read is something that is podcast now when it was radio before, and it works much better than any advertising.
Sure, because advertisers come to radio for one reason. And that is that there's people there. They want people. They want people to say their product name. The mistake we make is we take their money, but we don't take their resource. When Coca-Cola turns up, we just take cash and we put them on the air, Coca-Cola. We don't say, hang on a minute, what can Coca-Cola do for us so that we can do for our audience to make their lives better? Coke actually wants that. They've just very seldom been offered that. That's what is going to save us. We need to go and get the resource out of advertisers, not just the cash, not the 30-second spot, not even live reads. We need to go and ask them, what have they got? What is your brand and what have you got? And how can we use the brand for ourselves, for our audience? Because we don't have the resource ourselves.
Podcasters have the way of saying, I only talk about brands that I like. It's hard to do that when you're in a radio station. But so stop talking, act.
Yeah, that's ironic, isn't it? Because that's what we're doing. We're talking. We're not acting.
Yeah.
In which case, we should all just call tomorrow off and go and.
But what you said is at the end of that talk we had online. You said, "Stop talking."
Yeah, there's a lot of talk. I mean, it's
not on the radio, but stop talking about changing.
I mean, open Red Tech magazine, right? Or the online one that you get, it's filled with people saying what they do, and then I sit there with a pen and I read the whole article and I can't find what they do. There's not a thing. There's not there's not like me giving you an example of a radio station that changes its programming every day in Paris. We need articles of real examples of what people are doing, and then we need to start following those examples instead of saying, creating. We develop our talent
or taking risks.
No, you don't. Oh, we're embracing AI. Where? We spend a lot of money on imaging. No, you don't. All the voice artists I know have been laid off and don't have work anymore. You want the cheapest imaging artist you can get. I mean, all of it is a lie. It's a pile of corporate lies. And it goes on and on and on. And in amongst it are creative artists who are into music, who are into changing the world, who are into politics, who are into creating amazing content, and they keep fighting, and they keep fighting through all of this. Without them, we'd just switch things off. It would be over. So thank goodness for those creative types that we still tend to attract to this medium.